BetOnline is the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for everything football. BetOnline has every stat, every matchup, and even live odds and spreads to bet on during the games. Think you know your stuff? Then get in on a $200,000 mega contest and pick 5 games against the spread every week for your chance at weekly prizes and a share of $200K. When the game's over, head on over to our online casino and get in on the game of blackjack or maybe a game of poker or unwind with one of our over 150 slots games. Head to the website today to get in on the action. Bet online. The game starts here. Welcome to the Bleav in the Arizona Cardinals, part of the Bleav Network, joined by former tight end Ed Smith and also Super Bowl 33 participant. I am Javon Adams, and you can call me J or J Love. Be sure to subscribe, comment, rate, and follow this podcast and tell all of your Arizona Cardinal fans and friends to do the same. You can also watch us on Bleav TV around the country, in airports, and on YouTube. You can read the top Bleav stories at si.com and follow us across all our Bleav socials. Bleav in the Arizona Cardinals. What is good, my brother Ed?
Hey, for the first time in a while, man, we got some other pretty dudes on the show other than just myself.
He's talking to me. I'm talking about me.
And here we go, man. We're getting ready for week 1 of the 2024 season, and you'll introduce our guests and everything. But man, just excited to be kicking this off. I think this is our 6th year, I believe, 5th, 6th year.
Something like that. It show 189 is the show number. So
189.
Whatever that equates to. However,
excited to be getting it in, man, for real. And like I said, as I mentioned, you'll introduce our homies for the day.
Yes, indeed. So we have the 2 of the 3 guests. Hosts of the Bleav in Bills podcast. We have Joe Miller and we have Jerry. I know I'm going to mess up your last name, man. Is it Ostroski?
Ostroski,
right.
Yes.
Ostroski Jr.
Big O.
Man, welcome to the show, gentlemen. How y'all doing?
Appreciate you. How you fellas doing? Thanks for having us.
Yeah, I'm doing great. Thank you so much.
Yes, indeed. So we here, it's almost like when you come into somebody's house, if they're really hospitable and they tell you where the bathroom is, and they tell you, okay, in the kitchen, that's where you find the silverware, that's where you find the cups, and then sit on the couch, and after that, you are no longer a guest, you're a part of the family, and so that's how we treat it here.
Perfect,
right, man. Appreciate
Perfect.
it.
So
just don't drink my favorite drink. That's all.
What is it?
You got to share, man.
Hey, that brown liquor somewhere in here, you know.
you can't hide it. You got to divide it.
If it's brown liquor, it's going down. I don't know what to tell you. So
I got to ask you about that, Ed. If you had a chance to sip that, what I brought you back for.
Of course. You know I did.
Oh, you did?
I had a little bit over the weekend. Yeah.
Man, that's what's up. That's what's up. All right, so let's get to it, because why are we doing this crossover? One, because these guys seem cool, and Ed said they seem cool, so we said, yeah, let's chop it up. But of course, because the Arizona Cardinals are heading out on the road, going to Bills Mafia territory and taking on the Buffalo Bills in week 1 of the season. So we wanted to break that down a little bit. You know how we do it if you pay attention to Bleav in the Arizona Cardinals. We want to get into, since we got these guests in the house, let's talk a little bit about the Buffalo Bills. Looking in on this game, the Bills are favored by 6.5, so -6.5. Over under on the game 23.5 according to BetOnline. But more specifically, if you look at the Bills last season, were they 11-6? Cardinals were 4-13. But there's been some changes going in Bills country, so to speak. What are your expectations coming into this to this season, or just week 1?
Did you say that the under-over is 23.5?
23.5. I had to look.
I thought it was 47.
Is it? Because maybe that's the first. Yeah. Maybe that's the first half line. Because I was looking
23.5. Bet the over. Yeah, remortgage your house and bet the over.
I could be in error right now. I'm going to the bank and get a loan, man.
Yeah, bet the over.
Because I'm fixing to make some money. No, I think it's 47 for the game. Might be 23 for the first. But no, you asked about expectations, and I think Joe. I think the expectation is this: is as long as this dude's jersey that I got on, number 17, Josh Allen's taking snaps, we got a chance. Obviously, Bills had some cap considerations this year. We had to release some high-profile veterans like Mitch Morse, Jordan Poyer. Micah Hyde is kind of in retirement, but not really in retirement. Gabe Davis, we allowed to move on. He's in Jacksonville with Mitch. So we have had some roster turnover, especially in the leadership area. Diggs, of course, was let go. We're eating $35 million worth of dead cap space for that. But I think there's kind of as much as we've lost some of those veterans guys, I think there's kind of a refreshing vibe, a new vibe, and there's definitely a soft rebuild going on. But there is a youth movement right now in Buffalo, and I think that vibe is really good.
Now, before we get into the matchup, I gotta ask the window. We all know that topic about the window, how quickly it can close, and we've been waiting for the Bills to kind of take advantage of having that Superman wearing number 17 for a few years now. Do you guys feel like it's still wide open, or is it closing a little bit, especially after you lose a Diggs, which was an important piece? But are you guys, how confident are you that it's they can still run through the AFC and then get you a Super Bowl up there?
Well, I would probably start by saying that they don't exactly run through the AFC. Last year, the Buffalo Bills at one point in the season were, I think it was a less than 5 or 10% chance to even make the playoffs. And then the last half of the season, they ran down the Miami Dolphins and took the East. You're looking at a division where the Jets are good. The Jets have probably the best defense in the division, if not one of the best defenses in the entire league. And if Aaron Rodgers can stay healthy and that team cannot basically Jets itself, which it does every single season, it seems like, they're going to be good. And then you got the Miami Dolphins. It's always going to come back to, can that team play in the cold, which Jerry, who's a former Buffalo Bill, can tell you, generally speaking, they can't. So it's just kind of one of those things. So has the window closed? Dipped a little, maybe just because of question marks, but those questions are going to get answered probably in the first 3 to 4 weeks, as the Bills open the season pretty tough, and we're gonna learn a lot about this team in the first 4 to 6 weeks, I think.
And then along those lines, Ed often talks about, and I'm sure you can agree as well, being a former player, breaking the season down into quarters. I know that there are 17 weeks now, so I get it. But because of the lack of play during the preseason, Ed, and I'll let Ed share his philosophy. Go ahead, Ed, share your philosophy when it comes to
how it is, Jerry. I mean, back in our day, and I hate using that term, and we continue to try to come up with new verbiage for it. But we come from a time when we used to hit 2-a-days during camp, and everybody got their work in, from the starters to the last dude on the roster. And obviously there was a pecking order, that type of thing. Now, I mean, you got guys that pretty much say, like almost like the preseason is beneath them to a certain degree. Are they getting enough work in? Because for me, Jay will tell you, I always like the first month of the season now for me, it's almost like preseason football a little bit, because these guys are just getting out there working together. You come from an offensive line standpoint. I mean, you remember what it was like. You guys got to work together, eat together, sleep together. Well, not sleep together, but you know what I mean.
Pause.
Yeah, pause.
I'll let that go, Ed.
Yeah, but you know what I'm saying, though. So is the first part of the season for you guys, like, I look at it almost like it's almost like preseason football to a certain degree, because nobody's getting any work in.
Right. I think, Ed, you hit the nail on the head. And Joe will tell you, we've talked about it. I mean, our biggest question mark right now, one of our biggest question marks on our football team, is our wide receiver room. And, you talk about the rapport between the quarterbacks and the wide receivers. Where are they going to be? Can Josh trust where they're going to be when the routes are called? I think Josh Allen threw maybe 4 or 5 passes this preseason. He threw 3. Joe put his finger, 3 passes. So it's really hard to work on that timing, because I don't care what they do in OTAs. I don't care what they do in the preseason. You're dead on with this. It's almost like the first 2 to 3 games of the season are an extended or the real preseason. So, yeah, I think that's a big deal. And I think you're going to see – that's why I think a matchup like Kyler Murray coming into Buffalo is so dangerous for the Bills, because they haven't – I mean, he's 2 years off this ACL now. I watch Kyler Murray play college football every Saturday. I'm down in Tulsa, Oklahoma. We get the Sooners shoved down our throats. So I've seen Kyler Murray play 1,000,000 times. Yeah. They ain't seen nothing like him when it comes to running the football out of the pocket.
Right.
And they can talk about it. They can talk about rush lanes. They can talk about angles. They can talk about triangulation tacklers. I don't care what you want to get into. They haven't seen that speed. So, yes, it's a big-time concern for me, knowing what they don't do now in preseason compared to what we did. And I'm going to say it, back in the old days, man, because it was definitely different back then.
I would tell every Cardinal fan listening to and watching this program to pay attention to what happens with Josh and the wide receivers. The biggest question marks on this team are going to be safety depth and effectively what the linebackers are going to do, just with Matt Milano out for, who knows, potentially the entire season. But Josh Allen, to Jerry's point, threw 3 passes this preseason, 3. And there is one wide receiver of the 5 that made the roster that has actually caught a pass from Josh Allen and Khalil Shakir. If Josh Allen and those wide receivers struggle, there was no evaluation between as far as the wide receivers go from a preseason standpoint. If they struggle in the first half of this football game, the Cardinals are probably going to be have a pretty good opportunity to take this game. However, if Josh Allen comes in and he finds those guys early, which Josh Allen has a tendency to be pretty hot early in the season, it's all going to come down to that first half of the game, in my opinion. We're really going to kind of know what's going to happen with this team, the Bills at least, for the next couple of weeks until they kind of sort some of that stuff out.
You bring up something interesting there I wanted to touch on, though, but does it concern you in terms of not just from the lack of playtime, but from the starters? And again, this is one of those things that we're seeing across the league, but because you have some new coordinators on both sides of the ball coming in, right? And so that has to be a concern, where conversely, at least with the Cardinals, yes, again, they're coming off of 4-13 season, and it's crazy being around here. There was so much excitement off of a 4-13 record, right, and it's ridiculous. But so there's growth to be expected, and there's consistency because none of those coordinators ended up leaving, and so there's consistency in trying to build this culture. So now you mentioned Josh Allen trying to, if the Cardinals can't get to him, the expectation is to see growth. If we're transitioning to the Arizona Cardinals, for them to see growth, does that go from 4 to 6 wins? No, I think it's probably 4 to 8 wins to be able to really get some growth. And one of the things looking at this particular game is if the Cardinals can get a pass rush, because they have BJ Ojulari who's out. We also have Darius Robinson, who'll be out for the first couple of weeks of the season. So will Zaven Collins come in and will he do some things, or what will happen? And so that is definitely a question mark in that regard.
Exactly. And I think that's probably the key matchup of this game, right? Other than how do the Bills handle the addition of Marvin Harrison Jr. to that offense, you know, with having to play coverage on him, where is he in his maturation process? And does that open up a lot of running lanes then for James Conner and the other backs, I think, and then also Kyler. So, you know, other than that, I think that's the biggest matchup deal. I think the big question marks for Arizona, when you look at them, you'd have to say that defense, especially their front seven. You know, Zaven, his second season, is really playing defensive end or a hybrid linebacker, you know, a kid that played middle linebacker in college, but a see-ball, get-ball guy, runs really, really well. And I've always projected him as a defensive end. And now another year to work on that trade, work on pass rush moves and stuff. So you'd have to think that he would be more comfortable. And especially also, he's probably settled down a little bit after that 2-year extension that he just recently got. So, yeah, I mean, I think you're 100% correct. Can this defense of the Arizona Cardinals be productive against the Bills? I think Joe Brady, you know, came in and partway through the season last year, so they're a little familiar with him, although we're going to probably see a lot more window dressing out of that offense, a lot of motions, a lot of various sets. We'll probably still run the same base plays, but they'll be out of 15 different sets and motions. Defensively, it is Bobby Babbitt Jr., another guy that has Tulsa ties, but I always there's
a ringing theme here.
Yes, I always give love to my Tulsa boys. His father played at Tulsa and coached at Tulsa before he went into the league. But anyway, that's besides the point. You know, but what is Bobby Babbitt Jr. going to do? A lot of what he's learned is basically a regurgitation of what Sean McDermott has run for so long. So I don't think you'll see necessarily a ton of different things from him. It'll probably be along the lines of McDermott with a few pressure type packages that we haven't seen. But yeah, really, you know, Cardinals defense against that Bills offense. And I think the one thing that is a good thing for the Bills, Josh is such an off schedule quarterback that if things are kind of wonky, he still has the ability to make plays. He's not a guy that if it's not in rhythm, he's going to struggle. He's the other way around. If it's in rhythm, he has problems, right? He ad-libs better than anybody in the league.
Yeah.
I know we were more concerned about the guys that are there in place of the guys that aren't there, but I have to ask, with, you know, the subtraction of Diggs, and then we've seen what he's kind of doing in the media right now. It's almost like let it go, man. You know, you're gone, leave it alone. One, how much you guys going to miss him? Obviously, you talked about the big one of the big question marks is receiver room, along with gelling with Josh. But how much are you guys going to really miss him? And do you think can overcome that?
So you can't replace Stephon Diggs. It's not possible. I mean, Stephon Diggs, for the last 4 years that he was in Buffalo, was a top 2-3 wide receiver in the NFL. He's arguably one of the best wide receivers that's ever played for the Buffalo Bills, if not the best. And I know Jerry has obviously ties to Andre Reed, and I would argue as well that Andre is still the best wide receiver that's ever played for Bills, maybe even Eric Moulds, but Steph is right there in that conversation. So you're not going to replace Stephon Diggs. However, there's a lot to be said for Khalil Shakir and what he did last year and kind of some of his numbers as far as I think he had the best drop percentage in the league last year. He was number one in that. As far as win rate on his routes, I saw something today where it just talked about that and what that meant for kind of like his next year going into what happens with wide receivers and analytics with the type of numbers he has. And then you break it down. Like it's hard to have a conversation and deny chemistry between players. Josh Allen and Mac Hollins right now are best buddies. You've got Keon Coleman, who's a rookie that can play football. This is a guy that can get up. Now, the question is can he get separation? We're going to find out in real game time here soon. And then to me, the exciting opportunity is Curtis Samuel. Curtis Samuel is a guy that it's rumored the Buffalo Bills have wanted for a very, very long time, specifically to pair with Josh Allen. One of the 2 passes that Josh completed in preseason was to Curtis Samuel. And it was like a bubble screen of sorts in the flat that Curtis Samuel basically took off for 17 yards. And it was very akin to what Josh used to throw to John Brown, which is something we have not had since John Brown left this football team. So there's a lot of opportunity and budding like relationships there. And like what you're going to see from this offense from Josh Allen to, again, you can't replace Stephon Diggs, but to kind of replace that 200 targets that are missing from Gabe Davis and Stephon Diggs. I feel like, Jerry, you can speak on this. I feel like there's going to be more than enough opportunity. It's just going to come down to, can guys get open, right? That's what it's going to come down to. Can these guys, Khalil Shakir can get open. Curtis Samuel can get open. Can the rest of the guys? And then Dalton Kincaid, we haven't even talked about him yet. So,
and I'll say this, and Ed, I'm sure you've heard this before being a former player, but I just go back to that old saying all the time. Your on the field abilities better be a lot bigger than your off the field issues, right?
Yes.
And Stephon, while he was the guy that could take the top off it at any time, he became such a distraction in the media in the locker room. I just don't think that the management felt they could keep him around anymore because of the negative connotations that were coming with it. Steph's last couple of years weren't crazy. They weren't as productive as his first 2 years with the Bills. I mean, I used to say it all the time, as in the last couple of years, especially last year, he became the best hitch runner in the NFL.
Right.
The guy caught more hitches than anybody. So I just think that distraction and worrying, because you're going to a young team and you understand you got to have those vets that are willing to bring those young guys with them. And which way are they bringing them? And I think they were worried about Steph taking them down as opposed to up. And it just became too much of a liability, and they had to move on from him. But like Joe said, I mean, this is one of the best receivers who's ever played the game. So you're going to kid yourself if you don't think you're going to miss him. But I think in the long run, it's the best thing for the Bills as an organization that they let him move on.
So question to the players in the room, the players that are on the show, without naming names, but what's being talked about in that Bills locker room is effectively the lightness in it, that everybody, like Dawson Knox said, he's having the most fun he's ever had playing football. Like, people are talking about, like, the weight is lifted, and there's like even Sean McDermott is a little bit lighter. For you guys, can you speak to a time when there was a dude on the roster the year before that just brought everybody down? For not that he was negative, but whatever it was, and then he was gone, and then did the team play better? I guess that's the question I would ask as a fan, because I didn't play in the NFL.
Great question.
I'm sure Jerry will say the same thing. Heck yeah, man. Sometimes, I mean, it's amazing, and it leaks through the entire building sometime.
Yeah.
When you have someone that's that negative, you would think that it would only like affect the wide receiver room. Nah, man. Before you know it, it's leaked into the quarterback room, into the running back room, into the old line room, because everybody's constantly talking about it.
Gotcha.
And then, you nobody can even enjoy lunch together because you're afraid who might say what that might get to this. So yeah, when you have a player like that and it goes away, man, everybody just breathes a sigh of relief because you can now enjoy those relationships that you've been cultivating and without the fear of ticking this dude off or who knows what's coming next.
And I'll say this though too, Ed. I think that things were a little bit different back in the day. Now, towards the end of my career, we had our own situation, the whole Flutie Johnson thing and that whole debacle that was. But I think, Ed, you'll also admit to the fact that back in the day, I guess that's also saying in the old times, if there was an issue, people hashed it out and it was done.
Yeah,
like in the locker room, you could go up to somebody and talk to somebody about something without somebody's feelings getting hurt, having to make a therapy appointment, without worrying about it being on, this and that. You could handle your business as a man and not worry about everything else that came with it. So things are a little bit different. There's a little bit more sensitivity than there used to be. I will say that.
Absolutely a great point, Jerry. And obviously when you throw social media in there as well, that just tilts the apple cart all over the place. Yeah.
So let me ask you this, gentlemen. So I'll answer this. I'll throw it out there to you, and I'll answer it first to give you a chance to think about it. What storyline is old for Buffalo Bills fans, but still gets brought up in the national media? So I'll start here. And
just one.
If you could do a couple, because so when we're talking about expectations with the
why you got to bring me down? It's week 1 of the regular season, home opener week, and you're bringing me down. Like, what are we doing?
Well, the thing that gets me is Kyler Murray. So you guys probably remember the Kyler Murray, the clause in his contract about studying and everything. So that was a couple of years ago, but it still gets brought up as if it just happened during this off season. That is an old storyline. And what is getting old to me is that it seems as if there's a PR campaign to show how much K1, Kyler Murray, is a leader. He is growing into a leader. So now I'm watching for Kyler Murray the first time that one of his wide receivers doesn't run the right route, or he gets frustrated because you see it, and then the mood kind of drops in terms of on the team. But the biggest thing for me, from my perspective, is that the national media is still focusing on something that's so old, and we've moved past that here in the land of the Arizona Cardinals.
Well, we have our own, and obviously one of them just got released and is now in Houston, and that was probably the biggest one for the longest time, was the Steph Diggs situation. We just talked about it. But the narrative to me anyway, and I just did a show about it last week because some fool came out and said that people actually voted that Josh Allen was the most overrated quarterback in the league, which is one of the more ignorant things that I've ever heard.
Ridiculous.
But when you look at him, and the first thing they want to go at him about, they don't want to talk about that he was he had the most yards offensively in the league last year, or the most touchdowns rushing and passing of anybody in the league last year. They want to go right to the fact that he's a turnover machine. Mm-hmm. And Josh throws too many turnovers. He doesn't protect the football. He turns, and this narrative is constantly being played over and over again. And I use the example of Mike Piazza, who's in the Major League Baseball Hall of Fame.
Right.
Probably the greatest offensive catcher to ever play the game, over 300 batting average, I think over 500 in home runs, OPS of well over 900, just amazing. But all they talked about was he was a terrible defensive catcher.
I knew you were going there, yeah.
Right,
yeah.
But if you look at his statistics, all the pitching staffs he's worked with, when he caught, they had a better ERA, they gave up less runs, and they won more games. Mm-hmm. So the fact that he didn't have the greatest of arms to throw guys out at second base, that's all that was talked about. But yet this guy was probably, you can talk about him in the same breath as the greatest catchers to ever play the game. So that's our deal, is Josh Allen, this turnover deal. If you look at touchdowns and turnovers, it's not even close. He ranks number 1 or 2 in the league as far as that stat as well. So that's the old narrative with us anyway.
For me, it's Josh Allen. I mean, there's 100 of them, but for me, it's Josh Allen as well. And it's this idea that he can't win big games, or that he effectively, has an issue winning games. And I did a show last year, and it's not at the top of my mind, all of them, but 13 seconds, the 13-second game comes to mind. I was at that game in Kansas City. It was I'm there with my daughter, like we're holding hands, like barely squeezing the blood out of each other's hands. When Josh Allen marches down the field and scores the final touchdown for the Bills, Chiefs fans left. There was 13 seconds left in the game, and Chiefs fans were leaving. The stadium was emptying. And I did a show last year that talked effectively just about how many times Josh Allen left the field a winner and the Bills lost.
Wow.
And it just turned, there's this narrative that Josh can't win big games, and that the turnovers, sure, he has a lot of touchdowns, but to Jerry's point, he has a lot of turnovers, and the Bills can't win because of it. And it's no. More often than not, Josh Allen leaves the football field a winner. And when they lose within one score, and it's because the defense couldn't hold. The New England game last year, the Denver game last year, the amount of games just last year, which is why I did it last year, it was overwhelming how many times Josh Allen left the field a winner and then walked to the locker room a loser. That, to me, is an issue. That's a narrative that I can't stand, that Josh somehow isn't a winner. But
did you want to chime in, Ed?
No, I knew that 13 seconds had to be in there somewhere, because that was painful, man. As far as that had to hurt something awful.
Yeah, last time I checked, Javon, I didn't. Josh wasn't playing 15 yards off of Travis Kelce when they. But I mean, that's just me speculating or witnessing what I saw. So we're talking
right.
about it.
So let's get to this, y'all. So let's get into what before we get to predictions on who we think is going to win. What does each team have to do to get a win? So let's start with the Buffalo Bills. What do the Buffalo Bills need to do to come out 1-0 against the Arizona Cardinals? Let's start with you, Joe.
For me, it's about first and foremost containing Kyler Murray. When you're talking about a pass rush, they cannot allow Kyler Murray to get outside the tackles. I know he's dangerous up the middle, just as Josh Allen is, but they've got to do whatever they can to keep him in the pocket and make him a pocket passer. And then from there, it's Trey McBride. The Buffalo Bills, historically, going back to Jerry's days. Going back to Jerry's days and before, the Bills have always had a difficult time covering tight ends. Tight ends just have always eaten our lunch. So for me, it comes down to those two things: keeping Kyler Murray contained and then keeping a handle on Trey McBride.
I'm going to give you the O-line answer. When I look at this game, I think that the Bills are going to have to figure out a way to contain Connor in the rushing game of the Cardinals. That includes Kyler Murray. I think that if they allow the Cardinals to get moving on the ground, it's going to be hard for them to try to contain Marvin Harrison Jr. in that passing game. I think there's just too much to pay attention to. If they're able to stop the run, especially with minimal guys in the box, because I'm sure that Arizona is going to try to spread them out with multiple receiver sets and things like that. If they can control the run with minimal guys in the box, I think they'll have a really good chance. Conversely, I'm going to tell you that I think the Bills also need to rush the football.
Yeah.
I think that they need to control the line of scrimmage. They need to find a way to get James Cook going downhill and getting him going north-south and making plays. And then they got some other guys as well. They got a young rookie named Ray Davis who's electric out of the backfield. Now, he does have some issues putting the ball on the ground, but if you can get him involved in the passing game, because he's really good out of the backfield catching the ball, and they get those two backs going, I think it's going to take some pressure off of those wide receivers, because I think we need to see them 2, 3, 4 games before they really get that chemistry built up with Josh Allen to where they can, they can make plays without really having to talk about it. They know where each other's going to be.
Yep.
All right. So, Ed, now let's go the flip side. So what do the Arizona Cardinals have to do to come out victorious? I'm going to throw this out because, Jerry, you mentioned this. What I'm concerned about is that Kyler Murray will try to prove that he's a pocket passer. And there's nothing wrong with that. So as you grow, right, as you grow, I always do this since we're on video, that he throws because he can't see over the offensive line.
Right.
But the point is that I think that he might try to prove a point to his detriment. So therefore, trying to make sure he's hitting these wide receivers and, of course, hitting Trey McBride as well. But if the pocket needs to move a bit to give them an opportunity to stay in that game, and I also think that. I don't know if they're going to be able to do it because the pass rush just won't be there, but try to do something to at least to make Josh Allen think a little bit before he ends up trying to connect with one of his wide receivers. What say you, Ed?
For me, one of my biggest pet peeves about this Cardinals offense, Jay, over the last few years has been the horizontal attack versus a vertical attack. You'll notice we throw the ball to the sidelines, and I'm talking short sidelines. more than any team in this league. And in order for us to take advantage of getting a Marvin Harrison, we got to start throwing the ball up the field more, and also more of a vertical attack as far as our running game as well. More James Conner downhill with Kyler Murray under center.
I think Vince is going to be an interesting rookie to pay attention to in terms of in that running back room. But yeah, you're right.
One of the things we got to get Murray under center. This read option stuff with Conner is you need to throw that out the door. I mean, it's okay every now and then, but we need an attack where you get Murray under center, Conner 7 yards deep, picking a hole, from the tip between the tackle and the center, somewhere going downhill. This stuff with this read option, and then everything we throw is out to the sidelines. No, we got to take some shots up the field. If we can do that, then maybe take the cap off that defense a little bit. I think we have a chance. If we're just going to dink and dunk and try to run around the corners, I just think it's going to be a long day for these Cardinals. So it'll be interesting because none of us has seen our team actually play this year yet. It's going to be it really is. It's like Christmas. We're going to be opening up boxes of brand new toys because we don't know yet. So it'll be interesting to see 100%. What type of attack the Cardinals come out with, and if it's going to be newer or fresher than what we've recently seen. So, if they can do some things and maybe take some shots, I think they have a chance. If they go the normal route, like I said, I think there's too much talent on the other side of the ball for us to play with Buffalo.
All right, so drum roll, please. Let's get down to picks. Who do we think is going to win this game? We'll let our guests go first. So Jerry, you first. What do you think your prediction for this game?
I think the 47 over under is probably in jeopardy. I would say that. Okay. I think I'm looking at something like 35-27. Buffalo wins. I think it's going to be an exciting game. It's going to be a high-scoring game. I'll tell you, there's an area that intrigues me about this game, and this is my kind of behind-the-scenes looking deal. When you look at the Cardinals last year, didn't rank very well in offense, didn't rank very well in defense, but they were 11th overall in special teams. And early games, it seems that early games in the season, a lot of times there are big plays out of those special teams units. We haven't seen what anybody's really going to do with this kick return yet. Right. Buffalo's had some issues with consistency of place kicker. The Cardinals could make some noise on special teams, and I think that might be something that creeps into this game on Sunday.
Yeah, so for me, the first thing for me is you can't beat analytics, and there's again players in the room. And
yes, you can beat analytics. What with a big ass stick?
What is it about West Coast teams coming in and playing 1:00 games on the East Coast that like the numbers are just completely against them? So that's the first thing. Like the Cardinals playing at 10:00 in the morning, you're just outside of the rhythm, whatever. But for me, I said yesterday in the Hump Day Hotline, which is one of the programs that we do, I think my game prediction was 28-17 Bills. We're going to win this game. And I think it literally comes down to film. The Cardinals are the Cardinals, and the Bills have about, 8 games of film on Kyler Murray to go back to last year. There's no film for what the Bills are about to do. And it literally comes down to that fantasy football piece. Like for some reason, a running back's first start, like running back got hurt last week. RB1 got hurt last week. RB2 comes in to start this week, and he runs all over the defense because they don't know what to expect from him. And then the next team figures it out, and then he's done. Same thing similarly happens a lot of times at quarterback. So for me, I think the Bills have a great chance to win this football game. I think they should win this football game, but 28-17 was my number.
All right. Ed, what you got?
I'm looking at a very similar score. I'm looking right on that over-under 27-20. One of those kind of scores. Cardinals come to play, and I think you guys will recognize this. We're not a Super Bowl team over here in Arizona.
Not yet.
But I think what you're going to find out is Gannon, and you've seen this before, Jerry. Gannon has these guys ready to play. So with not as much talent on as you'll have on the other sideline, they're not going to give up on you or roll over. They're going to fight you to the end, and I think that's. For me, I tell Jay all the time, it's not how you win or lose, or it's not whether you win or lose, it's how you win or lose. And I think these guys are going to ball, and they're just going to fall short as far as talent. But 27-20, you're going to at least know that you were in the game by the time it's over with.
I like what Jerry said, 35-27. I think I'll go with that. It's going to be interesting to see. Again, it's the first 4 games of the season will tell a lot for the Arizona Cardinals, and there are big expectations, of course, for the Buffalo Bills out there. I even saw one where Josh Allen for MVP. I even saw something like that. So
Josh Allen is the most valuable player in the league. Without Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills, they are a 5-win team, maybe.
Yeah. I don't know about 5 wins, but they definitely are not what they've been the last so many years. That's for sure.
Indeed. So we thank the folks from over on Bleav in Bills. And so how often do you guys publish your show? How do you guys get your show up there?
Well, we have our network. We're with the Bleav Network. We're actually Overreaction Buffalo, and then we're part of that Bleav in Bills network. But we do multiple shows. We have Off Tackle with John Fino on Monday nights. We do On the Beat on Tuesday night, where we have a beat reporter that covers the Bills that comes on, and we do a show with them. Wednesday night is an old school show with Jay Spence, the King, who actually lives in Phoenix and has Arizona Cardinals season tickets. It's an old show that Joe and him used to do called Hump Day Hotline. And then my show on Thursday night, I'm excited to have Ed on with me tonight. We're going to chop it up, talk about the game this weekend. And then we have, If These Walls Could Talk, a couple of dudes that used to work at One Bills Drive, worked within the administration of the Bills. They bring back a lot of old stories. Older players talk about the old days. And then we have a Overreaction post-game show as soon as the game is over. So we got quite a few shows on during the week, and we appreciate you having us on, guys. And likewise, we could ever help you anymore, man. Thanks for getting us out there, getting the word out, and we really appreciate you having us on.
Absolutely, man. We look forward to doing some stuff with you guys down the road, man, and never hesitate to reach out to us either.
Awesome.
So on behalf of the one and only Ed Smith, I'm Javon Adams. We do this thing. Now we're going to be starting doing it twice a week. So make sure you tell a friend about what we have going on. And as always, we are presented by Bet Online. And as we always like to say around this time, are you kidding?